Welcome back to Medieval Dynasty. This is part 2 of my first video. If you're interested, I suggest you check out that video first, but if not, I'll give a little recap. In the last video, we started our journey in Gestovia, looking for our Uncle Eordan. We met the Castellan of the Valley, an old friend of Eordan named Unigost, whom informed us that our Uncle Eordan died a few years back. All was not lost, however, and Unigost gave us permission to build our own little village in the valley. In this time, we began to build our settlement, New Gestovia, directly next to Gestovia. I did a lot of work with Unigost, running errands and meeting some inhabitants of the valley. So far, we've met a young farmer by the name of Alwyn, who's often busy working at his farm, a hermit named Sambor, a gruff fellow with a crude sense of humor, and the lovely Edburga, a young maiden whom I've grown fond of from Gestovia. Currently, I'm looking for an old friend of Uncle Eordan and Unigost by the name of Kestrel. Unigost told me to ask Sambor where she resides, so that is where we plan to go in the near future. Now we find ourselves in the first day of fall. Most of my cabbages were successful, so I harvested my crops and had plenty of food for the coming seasons. After some maintenance on my little hamlet, it was time to see Edburga. She was sitting at a communal fire with all the other singles in Gestovia. Our love was firm and shatterproof, so I thought it was about time to pop the question. She said yes, and so Rasmir and Edburga got married. This also meant that I had my first villager living with me in New Gestovia, which would provide me an extra sticks and logs without deforesting the entire area. Perfect timing too, because I was in need of some extra building materials. For the rest of the night and into the next day, I built a smithy, a sewing hut, an herbalist hut, a kitchen, and many new houses for the future inhabitants. New Gestovia was looking like a real town at this point, be it slightly vacant. But I was no longer alone now that I had Edburga. I left her to hold down the fort while I hunted some bigger game than I was usually used to. No longer was I throwing spears at birds and hogs. I had a bow and stone arrows. The first thing I hunted was a moose. The moose probably could have killed me in a second if it tried. Another hog tried to ambush me while I was hunting the moose, but to no avail. I found my moose and went for the kill shot. Next on the list was a wyset, or a bison as I knew it better. Unfortunately for me, this was not going to go down without a fight. I was instantly taken down my first try. It seemed to me it was going to take more than range to take this hulk of a beast down, and it didn't help that I was low in health for the fact that, unbeknownst to me, I was dying of thirst. I should have gone home to regain my health after I realized this, but I was determined. With the help of my intelligent monkey brain, I tried making a fence, preventing the bison from catching me. It almost worked, but the clever bison simply went around the fence and killed me anyways. Next, I tried making a fence, encasing myself in, and shooting him from the inside. This almost worked, but the fence was too small, and the bison could simply hit me from the outside. But now I knew the fences were a great weakness to the creature. Finally, after making a bigger fence where it would not be able to reach me, I made my final stand. The bull began to run as soon as it realized it would not be able to penetrate my fence made of loose sticks and branches, and bled out along the way. A cheesy success, but a success nonetheless. Finally, it was time to hunt a bear. I had not seen a bear as of yet, so I was ready for an even greater battle with the creature. I went home to catch my breath and heal some, before heading back out in the morning to hunt the bear. I waved goodbye to Edburga, not knowing if I would see her again, and went out into the mountains to find my bear. I set my eyes on the creature, and began pelting the creature with arrows from the top of a mountain. Luck was with me on this day, as the bear couldn't scale the mountain, so I made quick work of it. After making it down the mountain to skin the bear, I noticed I was standing next to a cave. Worried that there might be bears inside, I warily made my way in. Thankfully, there were no bears, but lots of copper, tin, and salt. I spent a good amount of my time in here, breaking multitudes of pickaxes to remove any resources I could find, before taking a scenic route home. On the way home, I found some good resources from a broken down cart, along with a bronze pickaxe near a waterfall. I'm sure this would be useful the next time I went out mining. I made my way down the river, and while I was hunting a duck, I began to be attacked from behind. I was locked into skinning my subject, so I fled across the river before seeing what beast was attacking me. It wasn't a beast at all. They were bandits. This was my first encounter with aggressive people, so I used my range to my advantage and began picking off the bandits with my bow. I took their loot and searched for wherever they came from. My health was low, so I picked up a few plantains I found on the ground to hold me over, then came upon their camp. There was still another bandit left who had a bow, so I took cover behind a tree. It was a battle of skill at this point, and not before long, the bandit archer went down. They had a nice little campfire going, so I sat down and took in the scenery for a moment, before looting the surrounding area and heading home to get ready for winter. And winter came quick, as I began to freeze almost as soon as I left the house. I may have had winter clothes at some point, but I might have sold them for money before realizing I would need them. I planned to make a trip to Matilda to order some new clothes, but my wife had a quest for me. There was an inventor in Branica that she insisted I meet with, so I accepted, before heading to the town of Matilda's to acquire some new clothes. Thankfully, I had my torch to keep me warm along the way, else I may have frozen before making it to her hometown of Denica. Matilda had an abundance of new clothes, so after spending a hefty fee of 1,900 coins, I was dripped out in the finest furs one could have in the valley. Another thing I forgot to mention was that a storm came in on the last night of fall, damaging almost all of my buildings. Luckily, Ed Burga was hard at work while I was hunting last season, so I spent the rest of the day fixing all the damaged buildings before heading to Branica in the morning to meet this so-called inventor, a young woman by the name of Nicola, who sent me on a wild goose chase, hunting the birds of the valley to create the ultimate arrow. My aim was terrible, so it took me the entire day before completing her task. After I returned to Branica, I found some nice ladies to move into New Gestovia, Kazimiera and Niestanka. They were excellent excavators, which seemed like a good job to start with, so I made Kazi our blacksmith and Nia our water carrier. I also acquired a man by the name of Harald from Gestovia to be the hunter for the village. Now I would have someone who could passively obtain meat, leather, and feathers while I was off doing my business. I returned again to Nicola to see how her arrow research was going. Turns out none of the feathers I brought her were better than good old goose feathers. It was not all for nothing though, because I offered her a place to live in the new settlement, and I'm glad I did, because her stats are busted. Nicola was exactly what I needed, so I had her take Edburga's place in the woodshed, and now had Edburga working as a hunter with Harald. The village was now at a good 7 inhabitants, each with their own home to keep them happy. I also created some torches because the town felt a bit dark at night. As winter and my first year in the valley came to a close, I felt like a lot of progress was made in town. The village was occupied and farming resources for me, making my job a lot easier. Spring was here now, and it was time for taxes. I asked Edburga to take the tax money to Unigost while I surveyed the town. Some of the townspeople had quests of their own. Simple things like making wooden spears for Harald and inquiring berries for Nia. After helping them, I thought it was time to visit my friends in Gestovia. It had been a while since I had seen Alwyn, and he was looking rather sad. In fact, he wouldn't even look at me. He broke his hoe apparently, and was unable to get it fixed on the fact that he had so much work to do. So I offered to pick it up for him while he worked. It was a quick trip to the village across the river, picking up Alwyn's hoe and returning it to him. Alwyn, still devastated about his broken hoe, had not moved an inch since I left him. But hopefully now he could pull himself together and get some work done. The man that fixed Alwyn's hoe also mentioned that a hunter was looking for buyers for his bows. I didn't need one myself, but I let Alwyn know, who seemed kind of interested in having one. After taking care of Alwyn, Unigost's wife, Dobraniega, asked me to see what was going on with the rye delivery she was supposed to receive. A quick chat with their friend informed me that the rye was diseased and unusable. She apparently ordered some from the far-off town of Ralnica that was supposed to arrive yesterday, so I decided to check with the deliverer, Nadar. Nadar informed me that his worker never returned from the delivery, so something must have gone very wrong. I searched for his delivery man and found him, Hugo, near a stream, who was seriously injured from an attack. I ran back to Nadar so he could send help to the man as soon as possible. Hopefully he makes it back alive. But I did get my rye, and I was a bit tired of running back and forth, so I decided to take the wagoner back to Gestovia and deliver the rye to Dobraniega. Finally, we had to go check on Sambor. I was curious about where this Kestrel woman may be, so I went to see what was up with him. Sambor didn't seem thrilled to see me again, and wouldn't give me the location of Kestrel without picking him up a multitude of vegetables. You are indeed a bastard, Sambor. I hope you know that. So it was back to Gestovia to go grocery shopping. Luckily, a vendor in town had all the vegetables I needed, and I had the coin for it. So after buying the food, I went back to Sambor to get my answer. Kestrel was in Hornica. And Hornica was where we were headed next, but that is for another video. I hope you enjoyed the series so far. If you have, consider liking and subscribing so you can catch the next video as soon as it comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.